What's up, guys? Welcome back to Kibby Tech. It's been a while since we've done these YouTube updates, and obviously you can see just behind me we got a lot going on, a lot of new stuff to show you, a lot of old stuff to show you. Come see what we got going on. All right, so we got a pretty special episode this week for you guys. Before we get to that key topic, we'll show you what we got in the shop right now. So over here to your left, we got a brand new 2024 Raptor R. It's about 2,000 miles on it, and it's cut up into a bunch of pieces. So we're gonna be doing a lot of new stuff and some similar stuff that we've done in the past on that thing. We'll dive into that later. Over here, we got Eric's F-150. You remember this one on the channel before. We did the back half and the four-link, all that stuff. So that's obviously all been done, and now you can see the front. It's got a whole bunch of stuff going on in the front. So we'll dive into that one later as well. Four-door tube chassis, four-seater, big block, big boy Prerunner. Dive into that later. D90. Tons of updates on this thing. This thing's like a few days away from being stripped down to the chassis for little final welding, and then everything gets sent out to the anodizer, painter, powder coater, Line X interior, all that stuff, and then final assembly after that. The door slammer race truck, you can see it's pretty much there. You got a plumbing and wiring left to do and some assembly, and this thing is ready to go to the desert. You see, last time you saw it had no tin package on it, and we'll show you all that later. Great truck. Back up on the chassis table. We cut out the whole front middle section because we're changing a bunch of stuff on that, so more into that later. All right, and over here behind the welder, you see another tube chassis truck. We will show you a lot more of that in the upcoming episodes, but yeah, basically full tube chassis, another new build over there. Another F-150 in here for the four-link, our short course four-link back half kit. Show you more on that one later. We got Sonny in the corner doing a bunch of production welding, and show you some parts on the table, and then we'll dive into what I really want to show you guys. All right, back over here on my assembly bench in front of my toolbox, we got our production TRX lower arms. So all 4130 TIG welded lower arms. These are a direct replacement bolt-on King shock, OEM shock. We add the limit strap, 1.5 uniball, 1-inch uniballs at the frame. It takes our billet, sway bar, end link over here. Misalignment kit for the end with 12-point aircraft bolts, 12-point aircraft bolt here, 12-point there. Stainless misalignment spacers. Here's the other arm over here. So I just got these assembled, and we just got some more bearings in, so I'll press the bearings in the end here, and then these will get shipped out today. And then another cool new thing for the TRX we got is our Heim steering upgrade. So we got stainless clevises, all 12-point hardware, stainless hardware. We got jam nuts, and we just got the rod ends, so we can actually ship these out today too. Clevis adapter bolts. We got boots, so we actually supply it with a boot so you can seal up that inner tie rod. Keep that steering rack happy. Got some crimp, some hose clamps there. And then the tie rod's a full 60-61 aluminum tie rod. So it takes a 7/8 rod end on this end, 3/4 left hand on that side, and a lot more strength over factory with these guys. And obviously, you know, these ones are custom order King Blue. We offer raw, black, gold. You can custom order red, gray, all sorts of different colors. So, and these are usually good in stock. So all this stuff, you just head to our website to order it. See all this big, cool, shiny stuff over here. Get these out of the way. All right, so over here, this is the front suspension to Eric's F-150 Prerunner we're working on. So this is the billet upper arm. It's all machined on our 5-axis, and this is the F-150, you know, Raptor specific. Got all the 12-point hardware all set up for that thing as well, all aircraft. And then the front, obviously the big key component on that thing is the upright, so full billet upright. It's basically the same suspension kit we did on the twin turbo Raptor. We'll show you that one in the future as well too. So yeah, this is our big 70-75 upright, all billet. Willwood big brake kit. So we run the Willwood caliper, their mount, and then we machine the rotor hat adapter and run one of their off-the-shelf rotors. So this rotor pairs up with our rear brake kit as well, so you can run the same rotor, caliper, all four corners. So yeah, super nice setup, and we got this on a truck already and it works really good. You'll see a lot more of that one here in the future. And then we do run the IWE deletes. So this is like it's like that vacuum four-wheel drive locking axle crap. So you get rid of all those rubber hoses and all that stuff, go into the hub, and then you just run these, and the axles do spin full time when you run these, but less parts to fail. You just run this, the axle's just always locked in, good to go. Lower arms over here, all 4130 TIG welded. We got the stainless hard lines on these as well. So we run the short loop off the caliper to the lower arm here, little piece of hard line, all nice and bent on there, and then another soft line to the chassis. And big tie rods on these too. So this takes like the big 1.25" rod end at this end and a 3/4 on this end. So tons of adjustment, strength, and angle with this joint out here. So yeah, this truck, we got it strapped at like 18 inches of travel. So with four-wheel drive, so it's gonna be a lot of fun, especially paired with our back half strapped at 21. So it's gonna plenty of travel to get yourself in some trouble. So yeah, next time you see all these parts, they'll be on that truck. We're waiting for a few things to come back from Anodize so we can wrap up the intercooler system, all the piping and intake and all that. And then that truck will be out of here. So next time you see that, we'll probably be driving it around. So, and now what I'm really excited to show you is, we'll just go check it out. All right, here it is, Dan's Prerunner. Yeah, first thing you see, obviously it's just white, so no like crazy paint job on this one. First thing you notice is like wheelbase and like just like the presence of this truck. It's, I think, I want to say 136 on the wheelbase, so it's substantially shorter than like, you know, regular extra cab Silverado. You know, that short wheelbase with the cab pretty much centered in between the wheels. With the 40-inch tires, it just looks proportionally correct. So the cab is pushed back, the rear wheels are pushed forward, so everything's kind of altered. So first thing you noticed here is the 2016 to 18 Chevy 1500 grille and headlights. So this is the first time we've done that. In the past, like Corporate Cruiser and the Cop Cruiser, we've done like the 2014 grille and lights. So we wanted to do something a little different because we didn't want this to just look like another one of the same truck. So that, you know, came with a little bit of work there. Because obviously like the grill is a little bit taller, but then like the light here is like narrower. So there's this like big void here, which we built this whole, like handmade this whole aluminum like box basically here. So this is all hollow and that's basically blended right here. We added a nice bead roll design in it. It kind of goes from the corner to corner with a little design, little style in there. And it boxes in like the whole bottom of the light. So basically from like a front, like a dead-on front view, it's got like a nice finished look, and we didn't want to do a valance. I kind of wanted it a little more open than that. So you look at it from the front, like the approach angle's good. You see a lot of the front tire, you know, simple, clean, single tube bumper with the angle cut, you know, metal finished caps on it. Just looks nice. The Baja Designs lights kind of tucked in the grill. You know, we didn't want a bunch of lights on this thing, but we definitely wanted enough to where, you know, you could drive it and use it at night. You notice this like whole tube structure here. Pull these pins. So get that one out about there. You can just leave it sitting there. I already pulled the other side. And then the whole front end flips forward. So obviously when the front clip is on there with the, you know, the whole one-piece clip, You can pull those pins and flip the whole thing forward and really get to everything, get to anything you need to, because you know, you can just walk up in here, you know, pull the air cleaner off or check oil or, you know, check fluids, stuff like that. Kind of the first thing you notice big up top here is this big billet crossbar we made. So this is like a one-off crossbar just for this truck. It's got 3 bolts per side. We kind of planned around this air cleaner, how it necks down right here, kind of flows with the dimension of the air cleaner. And then the next thing you notice is a big giant air cleaner. And we did make this whole assembly, machined the top and bottom plate and all the studs in here and the standoffs and everything. Made all that around this big giant Walker performance filtration trophy truck filter. So it's an LSX 44 from Redline. We built the headers, exhaust, all that stuff. And then it's got the ID Designs front drive on it with power steering solution, billet power steering pump, billet DC power alternator. And then I plumbed the whole thing with like XRP Pro Plus hose. So yeah, lots of stuff going on here, and you can't see a lot of it because of all these paneling. And then the paneling is just, you know, our classic style that we like to do. We don't like to get too wild on the paneling. And we did that hex mesh because we want to be able to have the heat expel without, you know, being trapped in there with any like smaller mesh with smaller holes. Yeah, lots of stuff going on here. It's 3.0 by 12 IBP piggyback coilover from King 4.0 12-inch stroke, 5-tube bypass, 2.5 bump stop. And this is the new style bump stop with this new style top nut here. So like our billet bump caps that we make do not work anymore on the newer style bumps. So King kind of stepped up their nut game over here on these top of these bump stops. So these bump stops do look a lot better than the previous version. Got some Willwood Brake Master reservoirs up there. Did a little two-tone there with the hard ano and the gold. You see everywhere, there's a bunch of mil-spec connectors everywhere. So we even did connectors on the doors. So like if you need to pull the door, pull this connector here and pull the door off. So lots of cool stuff like that everywhere. And yeah, more on the engine. It's from Redline. It's an LSX 44. We added the daily dry sump to it. And then Dan actually got it dynoed, the hub dyno at Redline, and I want to say it put 585 to the hubs. So that's a little different than wheel horsepower. So I'm guessing 450 to the tire. If you come around here, actually, you could see behind the headlights, we got all these aluminum panels we made. And this is the stuff that really adds time to these builds, because we could have just not made all this aluminum panels and probably saved ourselves, you know, week and a half of work. But this is really what sets these apart, is all these details that you see on these, just all the different panels and all the different things that serve a purpose. Yeah, they do look good, but they serve a purpose. Like say the front tire got a rock in it and it flings that rock up and just blows out your headlight, then your headlight's trash. So at least with this, it's got this aluminum here. If this gets all beat up, just get it repowder coated and put it back on. Another cool little feature here on the hood is we actually have lights up top here. So when you open your hood and it's nighttime, you turn on the work lights, and all these lights throughout the chassis will turn on, and those will turn on and give you kind of like just a full beam of light, you know, over the engine and over the front. So you'd actually work on this thing at night, you know, if you don't have a flashlight or a kid to yell at to tell them where to point it. Yeah, so just little things like that work out. And even when that's closed, it lights up a certain area when it's closed, so they function when they're closed and open. Just a lot of forethought in serviceability and just having this thing really flow from the front to back. You know, we didn't want anything to really stand out, which is kind of what we do with our builds. You don't want one thing just to draw all of your attention. We want pretty much the whole thing to do that. And I think we achieved that with this truck, just like we've done in the past. And then another thing cool you see here, right up close to the front, is Mac just overlooked these, but another set of custom mirrors that we made. Kind of like the mirrors we did on the Playa Modelo truck. We kind of took what we did there, changed a couple things, made these a little more unique to this truck. So from the back here, you kind of see there's like this lip here, which creates like a visor to add a little bit of shade on the mirror there. So this little visor, you know, I'd say about 3/4, 5/8 thick, and it actually tapers kind of to nothing on the end, tapers out, and then it tapers back to nothing right here. I want to say these are 3 different pieces, and they're all molded, you know, welded everything and hand sanded, and you really can't, there's no edge on these that misses, you know. Like Nick did a really good job on doing these. Pretty cool thing. We like doing those on these trucks. They take a lot of time, you know. We got, say, a week into making the mirrors, so a lot of time and stuff like that. This little visor, you know, kind of matches like the visor that's in the dash, and we'll show you that. But yeah, just super happy with those, and just, you know, powder coated them the normal like BK08 satin black that we always do on like our paneling and stuff. All right, so back here on the back of the truck, first thing you notice right here, obviously these 2 big 40-inch spares in our radius fuel cell. So this is like our low volume production item we have here. Similar back half that you've seen us do before, but basically from the front of the fuel cell forward, that's all kind of one-off to this truck and this wheelbase and this cab and just kind of everything we got going on there. Really happy with how this turned out. We kind of designed some new license plate mounts here that kind of are part of the back half now. Integrated backup camera here. So there's a Motec backup camera there, and that'll pop up on 4 of the screens inside. So that's pretty cool. All right, coming around here on the side, you'll see a bunch of spare fluid containers here. So there's 8 containers here. So we drew this mount to accept 8 of these Maxima spare fluid containers. So you pull this pin here, pull this billet top bar up, and you can just let it hang back there, and then pull out whatever oil you want. These are all empty right now, but you could fill them with whatever, engine oil, ATF. All right, so you just grab this thing, flip it down, get it there in place, and then give it a little persuasion there, and then you got spare fluid. So usually, like, you could buy these mounts from Maxima that just hold 4, but we wanted 8, and we didn't want to mount 2 separate containers. So we just came up with that, and then it's actually like a universal fitment to our back halves. So on the back half tube work, we actually added these 2 brackets in there that have nuts built into them, so you can actually just kind of bolt on anything you want. So you can do a jack over here. The other side does have a jack, so you can do a jack here, a jack there. You could mirror this thing and put it on the other side, or you just mount whatever you want here. So kind of left it open-ended to where we can just kind of put whatever kind of mounting or accessories we want there. So it worked out pretty good. And then the top bracket on it here kind of bends over the top. Then it gives you a mount for your Safecraft 5-pound handheld extinguisher here. So super nice quick release mount here. You know, you can see some plumbing back here. This is all that XRP Pro Plus stuff I was talking about. So we got some vent lines coming around the back here. There's another vent over there. It's got our big sway bar assembly here. So 1.5" 35 spline with our billet aluminum sway bar arms, billet aluminum end links, and then the King bolt-in style 2.5 by 4-inch stroke bump stops. And then up here you see this massive bypass here. It's a 4.5 18 7-tube bypass with a 3.0 16 dual rate coilover. So it's basically like a full trophy truck shock package on this thing. So the front's a 3.0 4.0, 3.0 4.5 in the rear. So it's same shocks you'd see like on a trophy truck. Obviously down below, it's hard to miss those big billet 55-inch trailing arms. And this is our standard 55-inch set. So that's why you see the shocks way up in the cab. I think we strapped it at 30. So this thing is like 20 and 30. A lot of travel. This thing's gonna work very well. And the base tune we got in the shocks, we sent all the shocks to KDM. Keith over there at KDM Shock Technologies set up all the shocks. So the shocks obviously were all brand new. Sent them to him, takes them all apart, specs out all his valving based on his knowledge and what the truck is and what it's used for. And then sends it over with his best guess basically on a spring rate. And then once we get the shocks back on, we will scale the truck, set all the spring rates, and actually we were dead on the rear, and then we changed the front spring to a different spring that he recommended. So now when we go testing with Keith, we know where all the shocks are at. All the preload is set where he wanted it. The valving and everything in there is exactly what he set it up as. So now when we go to the desert, he knows where everything's at. We get a good baseline, and then we can just kind of hopefully just from there, just turn some tubes and just go drive the truck, put miles on it. So a lot easier to do that stuff here in the shop rather than go out to the desert with a set of shocks that you have no idea what the valving is, and then you waste a bunch of time rebuilding shocks in the desert instead of driving the truck. So we offer that service to everyone that has a truck built here, and we always recommend doing that because shock tuning can make or break a truck. You could have the best truck in the world, and if shocks are set up wrong, it's gonna look like the biggest piece of junk in the world. So yeah, some more paneling back here, our classic styling in the back, you know, perimeter bead rolls on everything, just kind of keep it clean and classy. And then we did some hex mesh here as well to let out some of the heat from the exhaust. You can see the exhaust coming up through the top here. So it's all Cerakoted gold. So we did that on the whole exhaust from the headers back. So it's kind of a cool look. And then obviously the tips, you know, that's the style that I like doing on these trucks. Coming out of the top in the center and just keeping the exhaust just up and out towards the back of the truck. And you see there's a dry sump tank. So we do have a daily dry sump system on this thing. And there wasn't enough room to really package it up front. So we put it in the back, which is fine because we ran all Dash 16 Pro Plus XRP hose feeding that oil pump up there. So that's all good there. Got oil cooler up in the back there with 2 fans on it, and then big trans cooler here underneath this rear portion of the mesh. Keep the trans cool. The trans cooler is like the size of a radiator. So yeah, lots of cool stuff under here. And then if you look under there, we got billet tube works, third member. So it's a 543 gear set with a spool, and it's a 10-inch. So, you know, hopefully it holds up to this power. It's got 36 spline trophy truck axles, which are, you know, like 2.5 inch in diameter. So they're big axles, big trophy truck axles. 1480 U-joints. So we ran the big U-joints on this thing. 2-piece drive line with the slip on the rear section. Tube works rear end housing, Brembo brakes, Pro-Am hubs. So basically it's all like trophy truck running gear on this thing. So really no expense spared on the drivetrain components and the parts and everything. So it's nice when you get someone that, you know, wants to put all this nice stuff on it, and it's not just, you know, selling the person more expensive parts. You get a better part, more longevity, and then, you know, if this thing had smaller hubs on it, then you couldn't put the big axles, and if you didn't have the big axles, they would break for sure. So running the big trophy truck axles is the way to go. Yeah, and tucked away in there, we got a couple batteries in here. There's a lot of stuff you can't see with the paneling, which is kind of our goal. Just, you know, we don't want a bunch of parts sticking out everywhere. You can kind of see everything because it shouldn't be seen anyway. All right, so another cool part that we designed basically for this truck, and then now it can be or is a kind of production part that we offer, is the third brake light. So I really wanted 2 amber lights on this thing and another extra red brake light, and I didn't want to mount them off of the tubes or anything, and I just didn't really like mounting them anywhere else in the truck, and I really wanted them up high. So that's why we came up with that third brake light. A lot of people make third brake lights, but we kind of approached it a little differently. It's all machined from one piece of aluminum, so it's all solid billet. We kind of threw around a bunch of different ideas, and we just came up with kind of doing another, kind of like the mirrors, you know, like it's got the little visor on the outside lights just to give it some depth and some style, and then the center light is actually kicked like 15 degrees down compared to the outside lights. So I wanted that center light to kind of be able to light up the back of the truck, and then I wanted the amber lights just to shoot back and through the dust so no one comes up and tags you. But and then I didn't want hardware coming from the outside to bolt it to the truck. So we actually threaded the back of it, and then you actually bolt it in from the back, and the back of the inside of that thing is actually threaded. So you just bolt it right on from the inside, which I really like how it turned out. So you can't see the top of it, but it's got some shape and some style to it rather than just kind of copying an OEM light and making it out of aluminum. So really happy with that. Does take some time to machine that. We machine it on our 5-axis, and it is on the brink of barely being machinable, just the way we have to get to the inside and kind of come in at angles to get all the material out of the inside so you can mount the lights in there. But worked out perfect, and you could even do we have another option where you could drill a hole in the top and then you actually put your radio antenna there. So we already had the radio antenna mounted with some structure on the inside of the cage there through the cab, but you can actually put a race radio antenna right on that thing. So another cool thing that we built just for this truck that we now offer as like a production part. And then I was talking about the jack over here. We'll talk about that. So similar like base plate like we did on the other side that bolts onto the side of the chassis, but this one just houses this 1.5 ton Daytona jack, and underneath the jack, spring-loaded handle mounts. So your jack handle is actually spring-loaded underneath it. Really happy with that. So I knew we needed to mount this stuff on this truck. We didn't even have them designed or built or anything by the time the truck was already like getting powder coated, but I knew we needed it. So we already had the chassis tabs already added in. And when it came back and we were getting to this point, it's like, all right, we need to mount these. Then we came up with this solution, and now we can offer that for our back half kits and stuff like that. We do offer the jack mount with this integrated skid plate by itself, so we do sell that as well. Yeah, it's nice. So basically, whenever we come up with parts, it's something that we need for a truck we're building, and then once we get it figured out and done, then we'll offer it to, you know, the everyday consumer. Yeah, so I'll try to show you how this jack comes out. Say if the bedside were on, you would probably reach from that side, pull that pin, pull this thing up, take it out, and then you could use it. You see the handles there. So say the bedside's there, kind of drop this side in first, get it in the hook there, and then, you know, you would come around this side over the bedside, pull that in, and jack's in there ready to go. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers the back half. Obviously, you have any questions, you just ask in the comments. But yeah, let's go check out the interior now. Before we open the door, you probably see this thing hanging down here. So that's kind of our like trophy truck style flap in the middle of the truck. So it's 3 different pieces of rubber. And we actually added that in there to try and protect the trailing arms and the rear end housing from the front tire roost and just anything in the desert that'll kind of, you know, block the rear end from getting beat up a little bit. You know, just try to do as many things as we can to avoid all these nice parts getting beat up, because this thing will get used. So yeah, that'll just save us a little bit in the future. But over here on the inside, see it's very wide open. We got our, you know, simple, you know, straightforward door panels with the nice bead rolls in it that actually, when you close the door, the bead rolls actually follow the cage. So when they're closed, everything kind of flows with the cage design. Our 3-pound extinguishers here. So we got these here in the back doors. Cool billet panel here. So we actually laser cut this aluminum, and then we put it in the CNC machine and kind of did this nice little pocket design here, put our logo in it. And there's one on the inside too here. So you take both of those off, and then you could access the rear shock bolts. So nice little touch just to make serviceability a little easier. Pretty open layout. Seats are on electric sliders. So we got 6 inches of adjustment there. So that's pretty nice because even actually this thing all the way back is actually too big for me. So actually for me, it's like a couple inches forward. So we kind of put it right in that mid-range, so it fits, you know, short people and tall people pretty good, even though probably only me or Dan will be the only ones driving this thing. You can look at it, super easy to get into. This actually works out nice right here. Just kind of hop in and you're in there, you know, full tilt column here. So that's nice. Dead pedal here, we machined just for this truck. Brake pedal just for this truck. So 2 Tilton Masters in there, one for the front and back. You know, custom foot pad, the Everson brake pedal assembly, and then yeah, just our billet gas pedal with the tow hook here and the heel stop there, so you can really lock your foot into this thing. And it's just comfortable. Everything's, you know, right where you want it. Handbrakes right up here, nice and high, where you can get some good leverage on it. Big Motec C1812 display in there, aircraft vents, leather wrapped overhead panels, leather wrapped dash. This big faceplate on the dash is actually hard anodized aluminum, and all these bolts are threaded, so we can undo all these bolts without reaching up underneath, and then you could pull all these faceplates off and just get to everything super easy. And you can see it's super easy to get in and out of. Center console comes out really easy as well. You could actually take the whole center console out without disturbing the shifter or the handbrake mounts, which I really wanted that. Just for serviceability, say if the handbrake master cylinder blows up on you and fluid's going everywhere, you can just pull that center console out, rebuild the master, and be back on the road. Battery switch is hidden. I'm not going to show you where that is. Fire suppression pull right here. So suppression tank, pull that. You got some sprayers like kind of on the back of the engine area and the trans area. Wherever like there's like an abundance of plumbing, that's where we kind of run it. Had the upholstery shop build up a little pad here on our center console. So it actually gives you a little armrest, and it's like perfect height to give you a nice little armrest in the center there. Kind of did this whole like chevron kind of pattern here with the cup holders and the center console. And we actually drew all of that in CAD, and we actually laser cut all those pieces. Rear view mirror there attached to the cage. Our overhead panels have the race radio and intercom setup up top. And then we did flush mount headset jacks. So one for the driver, one for the passenger, and then the back you can see there's the one for the third seat there. And then flush mounted some KC lights in here for dome lights. You come around here and check out the Motec display there. It goes through a cool little feature when you key on. Got Kibitech, Triumph Performance, and then did a custom like gauge layout. Ian actually made that. You can see in the center it's got the PRN 1, 2, 3, 4. So you pull back once on the shifter, and it goes automatically to your backup camera. And then neutral, it holds it too. And then as soon as you go into first, it goes away. And then it gives you the indicator here, tells you what gear you're in. It's pretty much got gauges for everything. More stuff than you're even going to care about. Obviously, most important is that water temp and that oil pressure. So those are right up here, kind of where you need them. And then if you see the center of them, they actually light up red when they're low pressure. So obviously, fuel pressure is going to be low right now because the pumps aren't on. Oil is going to be low because it's not running. So say we hit the fuel pump. And let's say we start it. Those warning lights go away. So some cool stuff built in there with the Motec. Ian at Triumph did all the wiring on this thing. He does all of our builds, so does a great job. And this little plaque we made in here. I don't know if you can see that in there. Got that cool little plaque in there, the Coors Light Cruiser. The Kibitech Coors Light Cruiser for Dan Ray. Dan, he'd be at, out at the river in Parker, and he'd send me a picture of his, his hand holding the Coors Light with the river in the background, and I would send him one from my house. So I just kind of come up with that and didn't even like really tell him about it, and then we made it and then kind of surprised him with that. So he's super stoked on that, and actually the license plate actually says Coors Light Cruiser now. So. All right, so over here on the passenger side, you see we got this big HDS 12 Lawrence GPS. So we ran like a 7-inch GPS on the driver's side, and then we ran this big one on the passenger side so the passenger can take notes and stuff like that. We wanted a big GPS, some packaging didn't work out for like the 16-inch, so the 12-inch, in my opinion, I like the 12-inch a little better. So yeah, worked out really well, and just nice clean look over here. Obviously there's the race radio, intercom stuff's overhead, so it kind of opened up a lot of free space on the dash here. And then you see we got this button here that says camera rear, so we can actually turn that on or off, and that actually comes up on the Rockford Fosgate screen, and it'll pull up on the 7-inch GPS screen as well. So you can turn that camera on at any time you want, which worked out pretty cool. And obviously you see the 16 button keypads here. See how they're flush mounted. So we actually made that flush mount for this truck. There was another thing, I wanted 2 of them side by side, and I didn't want to use 2 of the off-the-shelf flush mounts. So that's why we came up with a flush mount that worked for the space we're working with here. And like you see here, we got big access panels to get into the console there or up under the dash, and there's a lot of removable panels, and everything is either has a nutsert on the back, or there's a plate that's, you know, drilled and tapped. So there's no, like, you don't have to reach behind anything with a wrench to get to anything. Everything just comes out super easy. Like you actually take this center console out in probably 5 minutes, and then everything else is still there and functional. So a lot of forethought in this stuff. And here you see there's some more mesh on the door panels. So there's actually speakers behind on each of these. So there's just door speakers. We didn't want anything crazy for sound, and Dan didn't care if there was a stereo in it, but we want to do something. So we did, you know, just a couple nice door speakers on all 4 doors. And then we did little different mesh on the inside, and then hard anodized that mesh as well. So it kind of flows with everything else. Just some cool features there, and just, you know, just those little details that we like to put into these things. But yeah, I think the next time you see this thing, we will be out in the desert, and it'll be flying through the whoops and flying through the air. So Dan keeps saying every time I send him like an update, like I did this morning with the fenders over at Linex, it was, you know, his classic reply, let's jump some shit. So next time you see this thing, we're going to be jumping some shit. So yeah, I think that covers it for now. And yeah, next time you see this thing, we'll be having some fun. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to try to get back on track with these videos and really give you guys updates on the shop and everything else that's going on. There's just, you know, there's a lot going on, a lot of stuff, and, you know, taking the time out of the day to do these videos, and it's just, you know, we got a lot going on. So I'm going to try to keep you guys updated as best we can, and then make sure to like, subscribe, tell all your buddies, all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.